Thank you for tuning in to The Journey. I'm Bob Glaze, President and General Manager of Southwest Radio Church. With me is Pastor Larry Spargimino. We are telling the news the way it ought to be told. The Antichrist is the final world ruler who brings the world under a reign of evil, bondage, and terror. The word Antichrist means against Christ or in the place of Christ. Daniel 7:25 tells us how he will operate. He shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. He will blaspheme God and bring great persecution against the saints. Revelation 13:6 and 7 explains this in further detail. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. Power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
Power speaks of the authority of the Antichrist. He will have authority over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. It's hard to imagine how one individual could have such universal authority. He will enforce his rule by a mark, perhaps a microchip, by which he will be able to identify his friends. Those who don't have the mark are his enemies. Through sophisticated modern technology, he will control and dominate the world. There will no longer be national sovereignty and borders. There will be one system and one currency. This will be a one-world system with a one-world ruler. This is the New World Order. It is supposed to put an end to wars and national conflicts. There won't be any nations, hence there won't be any nations in conflict with one another. It sounds good, doesn't it? But the Bible reminds us that it will be far worse than what came before. It will be a world in bondage, a world under the heel of the beast, the devil's representative on earth in the end times. And the Antichrist will be a control freak.
The world has been moving steadily in this direction. There seemed to be no stopping it. But then on January 20th, 2017, there was a major impediment to its complete takeover. On that day, with four of his predecessors listening, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, newly elected U.S. President Donald J. Trump spoke forthrightly to shadow government elites. He began with the words, quote, "Today's ceremony has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to the American people." Close quotes. With that statement, Donald J. Trump declared war against very powerful enemies, both ancient and contemporary, both visible and invisible. To the Illuminati elite and the New World Order visionaries, this inaugural address was a clear shot across the bow. It drew the line in the sand.
The New World Order is another aspect of globalism, the attempt to design and implement a man-made utopia, a perfect world with no borders, no distinctive culture or national heritage, a unified legal system, and a common police force. All of history's empire-building scenarios have the same goal, attempting to capture more territory and bring it under one rule, supposedly the rule of a benevolent ruler, or more accurately, a benevolent dictator. The Egyptian, the Assyrian, the Babylonian, the Persian, Greek, Roman, Ottoman, and British empires all had the same goal. The underlying driving force was the yearning to rule the world as an undivided community under one king. We would have a perfect world with a lot of happy people.
The only problem with that dream is that it is just that, a dream. Kings and rulers, like every other human being, are fallen creatures. To put it plainly, they are miserable sinners. They are selfish, lustful, corrupt megalomaniacs who need to be restrained by elections, borders, and local rule. For instance, a government that will be for the people, by the people, and of the people. Donald J. Trump did the world a great favor by drawing that line in the sand.
This drive for a one-world government is no mystery. A shadow government behind the scenes does exist. Many years ago, U.S. President Woodrow Wilson made the observation that, quote, "Some of the biggest men in the United States in the field of commerce and manufacture are afraid of something. They know that there is power somewhere so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. Close quotes.
For those who want a new world order, Donald Trump is a menace. In January of 2017, a consortium of atomic scientists updated their doomsday clock. They believe that we are much nearer to doomsday than ever before. They believe that the Trump administration will push us over the edge. For the last couple of years, the minute hand on the doomsday clock stayed set at 3 minutes before the hour, the closest it has been to midnight since the early 1980s. But in January of 2017, they moved the clock closer to doomsday by 30 seconds. Doomsday is now 2 minutes and 30 seconds away. These scientists warned that, quote, the probability of a global disaster is very high, and the actions needed to reduce the risk of danger must be taken very soon, close quotes. Why did they move the clock a half a minute closer to their predicted doomsday? Quote, because as this statement is issued, Donald Trump has been the U.S. president only a matter of days, close quotes. They further railed against Trump, quote, because he made disturbing comments about the use and proliferation of nuclear weapons and expressed disbelief in overwhelming scientific consensus on climate change, close quotes.
We've been talking about the New World Order, its false promises, and its real threats. We have a book that will show you the danger and how firmly it is entrenched in America. Donald Trump's successful bid for the highest office in the land has raised a storm of furor by those who thought the New World Order was effectively in place. The election of Donald Trump shows that it is not. Trump's election also shows that there are many Americans who realize that the New World Order is not the best thing for America. The title of the book is Saboteurs: Shadow Government in Quest of the Final World Order.
This is a 364-page book that is thoroughly documented. It will give you an inside look that will help you explain the conflict and strife that is taking place in America at the present time. The destruction of Confederate statues, angry student demonstrations, the cultural madness surrounding the Berkeley protest all have deep roots that most Americans are not aware of. Saul Alinsky's Rule for Radicals is a roadmap being used by many so-called intellectuals and national leaders to get America to fit in with the rest of the world. Our toll-free number is 1-800-652-1144. You will want a copy of this important book.
The book Saboteurs takes you far beyond the superficial chaos currently playing out in the public square and in the media against the Trump administration. President Trump's America First policy is a threat to those who want to change America's unique identity as a constitutional republic. This is certainly a book that you will want to read and study. You can check out the references for yourself and be an apologist for freedom and liberty. 1-800-652-1144. For all those who get the book Saboteurs, we will throw in for free my 40-page mini-book, Asking for the Nations. This is a challenge to renew your commitment to world evangelism. It will be our gift to all those who get the book Saboteurs.
President Trump's first speech before the UN was a potboiler. His fans will grow in their love and devotion to the president. The non-fans will scream. What did the president say? One line in particular was fiery hot. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, quote, in over 30 years in my experience with the UN, I never heard a bolder or more courageous speech, close quotes. Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton, was of a similar view. He said that Trump's speech was, quote, the best of the Trump presidency.
As could be expected, Hillary Clinton thought it was horrible, quote, I thought it was very dark, dangerous, not the kind of message that the leader of the greatest nation in the world should be delivering.
Well, maybe the president should have been a little more soft-spoken, something like Jesus. But wait a second. Didn't Jesus call out the religious crowd of his day and say, quote, "But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Woe unto you, ye blind guides, ye fools and blind"?
Someone may comment that Jesus was not instigating nuclear war or total devastation. Well, that comes later. In Revelation 19:11, John sees a vision of Jesus as he will be when he comes to put down all evil and establish his kingdom. "And I saw heaven opened, and behold a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war."
Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, in an email to Dr. Michael Brown, put it all in perspective. Quote, "While it would seem to be self-evident, it is so rare to see denunciations of these rogue regimes and those like them from the podium of the UN. The United Nations has embarrassed itself as it has repeatedly equivocated on brutal governments and terrorists. But today, President Trump, as leader of the free world, upended the entire UN institution, demanding and delivering moral clarity." Close quotes.
The president did use some strong language, but there are many people who are glad that he did. The president was honest. He expressed what most of us felt. Kim Jong-un is a depraved monster. 30,000 defectors from North Korea have told of his unspeakable cruelty and torture. And now he threatens the world with nuclear weapons.
Is there any justice? Do the courts always mete out justice? After mugging and brutally beating an elderly man in the subway, Bernard McCummings was shot by a police officer while fleeing the scene of the crime. Permanently paralyzed by the bullet, this criminal sued and won $4.8 million in compensation from the New York City Transit Authority. The man he mugged, an elderly cancer patient, is still paying doctor bills. McCummings, the mugger, was deemed the victim. He is now a multi-millionaire. The president's moral clarity in a world where it is so rare is a breath of fresh air.
Have you ever noticed how many bullies are around? I mean, big, bad bullies? The kinds that pick on little kids and the helpless? There are even some with planes and missiles. God loves it when someone stands up to a bully.
Israel has been continuously living under the threat of annihilation from some of its big, bad neighbors. They are bullies. Ever since its founding in 1948, there have been several attempts to destroy the Jewish state. Whether it has been Saddam Hussein with his Scud missile attacks, or Hamas with its rocket attacks, or the PLO and company digging tunnels into Israel, there have been repeated attempts to annihilate Israel. While the Israelis celebrate May 14th as the founding of the Jewish state, Palestinians and others of their persuasion call it Nakba Day, the day of tragedy. For them, May 14th, 1948 was a day of tragedy.
But Israel's military capabilities are strong. Her defensive power has taken a major step up. In mid-September of 2017, the Israeli Defense Forces announced the establishment of the first permanent U.S. military base on Israeli soil. Its purpose is to defend against rocket and missile attacks.
The American facility is located within the Israeli Air Force's School of Aerial Defense near the southern city of Beersheba. It will permanently house dozens of American soldiers stationed in Israel as part of the task force. The U.S. soldiers will operate the complex radar system that tracks the flight path of ballistic missiles, as well as rockets and missiles launched from the Gaza Strip. The base, which has been 2 years in the making, will help the Israeli Air Force. The U.S.-Israeli combined efforts will improve detection, interception, and deployment in aerial defense, while strengthening the cooperation between the United States and Israel.
It is sad that radical Islamic nations and groups would base their identity and purpose on destroying a nation. Every time you read the newspaper or listen to the TV and see something about Iran, what is it all about? Is it about some new building project to house the poor? Is it about some medical discovery that Iranian medical doctors have made? Is it a report about some new surgical procedure Iranian doctors are now using to save lives? No, it's another threat to destroy the Jewish state.
The acting commander-in-chief of the Islamic Republic of Iran, General Syed Musavi, issued a menacing statement against a Jewish state just hours before Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was expected to bring up the ever-imminent threat posed to Israel by the Iranian state in his meeting with President Trump. The general said, and I quote him, "We will destroy the Zionist entity at lightning speed and thus shorten the 25 years Israel still has left. I warn the Zionist entity not to make any stupid move against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Every such stupid act will make us turn Tel Aviv and Haifa into dust." Close quotes. Now, if I had studied psychiatry with Sigmund Freud in Vienna, I would say the general has an unresolved Oedipus complex that is frustrating him like a bad rash. But I think the man's real problem is accurately described in an old Presbyterian catechism. The general is sinful and miserable. No wonder so many Iranians are turning to Christ.
Fortunately, not everyone in the Middle East and environs has such a hateful spirit. The king of Iran has established friendly relations with Israel and is planning to send citizens to visit the Holy Land.
King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa was in Los Angeles, California recently at the Simon Wiesenthal Center. Rabbis Marvin Heyer and Abraham Cooper, who head the center, said the Bahraini king issued a declaration of peace during their visit to the capital city of Manama earlier this year.
Rabbi Heyer described the visit and said, quote, "The most exciting part of the visit was listening to His Majesty outline his vision for a new Middle East, one solidly based on the principles of inclusion and human dignity that rejects extremism. May the day come soon when His Majesty's plane lands in Ben Gurion Airport and when the anthems played here tonight will be heard around the world, ushering in that long-awaited era of lasting peace and tranquility." The city of Berkeley, California was on high alert. Barriers were erected to stop violent protesters. Bank of America boarded up windows. Police were authorized to use pepper spray if necessary. Traumatized UC Berkeley students were offered counseling if needed. Crowd gathered and chanted, "Hey, hey, ho, ho, white supremacists have to go." A large sign reads, "We say no to white supremacists." Others chanted, "No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA." Who or what was the problem? Why the uproar? Suspected white supremacist Ben Shapiro, who allegedly tries to mask his racist rhetoric by claiming to be Jewish, was coming to the campus.
Shapiro had been invited to speak by campus Republicans. They complained the liberal university stifles the voice of conservative speakers. One 18-year-old high school senior from Modesto, California, was among those lined up to see Shapiro. He said he tried to get other people to come with him, but they were afraid about the potential violence. "It's really sad," the 18-year-old high school senior said, referring to the heavy police presence. "This is taxpayer money," he added. "It's terrible they have to have this because a speaker wants to share his views."
UC Berkeley spokesman Dan Mugaloff estimated security costs could hit $600,000 for the event. He said the school was committed to ensuring the safety of students and people attending the event and to make it successful. The city and campus have become a flashpoint this year for the country's political divisions, drawing extremist groups from the left and the right.
Ben Shapiro did speak. He spoke against what he called campus thuggery and violence in political discourse. For the record, Ben Shapiro is an Orthodox Jewish 33-year-old, very well accomplished lawyer, journalist, radio host, and New York Times best-selling author. He has been one of Donald Trump's consistent critics, and he abhors everything neo-Nazis and the alt-right stand for.
America's colleges and universities used to be places for the free exchange of ideas. Notice the words "used to be." Now America's colleges and universities have become hotbeds and incubators for closed-minded tyrants disguised with long hair and baggy pants. Getting a college education involves hearing some things that might be new to you. and even upsetting. Political correctness is as narrow-minded and hateful as neo-Nazis and KKK cross-burners. You see, Berkeley is a good example. If America's future is in the hands of its graduates, we are doomed. Fortunately, that is not true. There are young men and women in America who want to know the truth and are seeking the truth. Many have found the truth in a person, Jesus Christ.
The radical left is becoming more like those who stoned Stephen, the first recorded martyr of the church. Acts 7:57 says the angry crowd did not like what he was saying. They cried out, closed their ears, and viciously rushed at Stephen. Then they threw him out of the city and stoned him. These people are a lot of things, but intellectual and educated, they are not.
It sounds like Psalm 2. Why do the heathen rage? Have America's universities become dens of raging heathen? And remember, it's these very same people who want to legalize pot, promote same-sex marriage, and allow Sharia law in America. The world wants to squeeze us into its mold. It often does through political correctness. Some Christians are bravely and publicly resisting. Good for them. A Christian Dairy Queen owner in Wisconsin has put up a politically incorrect sign in his restaurant, and he's not afraid of the controversy.
The sign, posted by Kevin Schunemann, says, "Notice, this restaurant is politically incorrect. We've been known to say Merry Christmas, Happy Easter, God bless America. We salute and honor the flag, give thanks to our troops, police officers, and firefighters, give thanks for the USA, and give free Sundays to veterans on Veterans Day. If this offends you, you are invited to contact the owner and designate a snowflake-safe space a minimum of 24 hours in advance. In God we trust."
The sign was hung about 4 years ago after a customer was upset that the restaurant was playing Christian music. The owner decided to post the warning for customers to see before coming inside. However, the sign has gained new attention recently after someone posted a photo of it on the official Dairy Queen Facebook page, writing, quote, "I find this extremely offensive. Please speak with the franchise owner," close quotes. Besides hearing from those who have been offended, Dairy Queen has also received comments from people speaking in support of the franchise owner and his right to run his business as he wishes.
The police chief of Mounds, Oklahoma, has likewise been politically incorrect and has raised the hackles of a prominent civil rights group. It is demanding that Chief Antonio Porter stop sharing Bible verses on social media. The American Civil Liberties Union of Oklahoma has charged that the Mounds Police Department has been violating the U.S. Constitution in recent months. The ACLU's argument is that by sharing material from one specific faith, the police are showing preference for that faith, in this case Christianity, above all other religions or no religion at all.
Chief Porter told KOTV-TV that he has no plans to stop sharing Bible verses on Facebook. He told a TV reporter that he reads a devotion every morning. He said he isn't picking one religion above another, but wants people to know that he is praying for them. Chief Porter is not alone in defending the Facebook post. Mound City Mayor Rosa Jackson has said that she, too, has no problem with the post. "I'm not offended by the posting. As a matter of fact, I appreciate it," Mayor Jackson told KTUL-TV. "If I were offended and I didn't like what was being posted, I'd turn it off."
The exercise of our free speech rights is essential to the American system. People in public service shouldn't lose those rights. If the police department were showing preferential treatment in the exercise of its official duties, that would be another story. We are living in a time of rapid cultural and societal changes. One of the areas to be hit hard by this is marriage and the home. I want to look at a key passage in the Bible. It provides us with great insight. Marriage is a divine ordinance. It is what I like to call a creation ordinance. It is not something that is cultural, that is developed over time, and that we are free to change and modify. In Matthew 19, verse 3 and following, we read that the Pharisees came to Jesus with a question. They wanted to test him. It was the kind of question that they hoped would put Jesus in a box. In Matthew 19, verses 4 and 5, Jesus responds to their question and quotes Genesis 2, verses 24 and 25. He says to the Pharisees, "Have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, For this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder." Jesus takes his audience back to Genesis 2, where God gave definitive instruction regarding marriage. Genesis 2, 24 and 25 is a paradigm for marriage. There has to be severance. A man will leave his father and his mother. The Bible clearly teaches that we are to have respect for our parents, but here God says there is a relationship that is even more basic, more fundamental. A man will leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife. Of course, that doesn't mean we should abandon our parents, but it does mean that there is another area of responsibility. It is our responsibility to our spouses. Sometimes there is friction that is generated because this very fundamental teaching is ignored. So first of all, there is severance. And now, secondly, there is permanence. A man will leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife. This is monogamy, one man and one woman. Though polygamy was allowed in the Old Testament, it was never God's perfect will. It was because of the hardness of the human heart. Thirdly, there is intimacy. They were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed. Neither the devil nor Hollywood invented intimacy, but they did take it out of marriage. Things will be better for all if we follow God's design for marriage. Thank you for joining us on The Journey. As we close out our telecast, let me remind our viewers about our special offer, the book titled Saboteurs, Shadow Government in Quest of the Final World Order by Dr. Tom Horn. And as a gift to you, we're throwing in free of charge my mini book, Asking God for the Nations, Growing in Your Commitment to World Evangelism. Our toll-free number is 1-800-652-1144. I want to leave you with one verse of Scripture. It's Acts 20, verse 35. Jesus said, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." Our God is a giving God. For God so loved the world that He gave. No wonder it is more blessed to give than to receive. When you give, you are walking in the steps of the Savior. So we'll be back in 1 week, and remember, God is still on the throne, and prayer changes things.